Good morning from California. It's a beautiful day, partly cloudy. We're supposed to get some rain at the end of the week. These are exciting things for us. And welcome to this last webinar of 2016. My apologies to everybody for having to move this out a week. Cindy's father had a stroke a week ago Sunday, and he was in intensive care, so it was not a good day for the webinar, and so we're still dealing with that, but now it's stabilized to the point that I can go ahead and do this, and we can talk about what our plans are for 2017. We have had conversations on this subject. We do it pretty much annually because it's so important. So many new people end up listening to this, hearing some of these things for the very first time. Many of you have heard it, but still haven't done it. Many of you have also done it and haven't kept doing it. And you have a plan to have a plan. And that falls a little short. It's better than not having a plan to have a plan, but the reality is we've got to move from plan to action, and action on the plan, and then move the plan into action. And let me talk a little bit about it from a historical perspective of mine. Years ago, early in my career, thank goodness, I had reached SMD just off drive, intensity, ambition, desire to be recognized, these kind, wanting to, make and save some money, and frankly for me, stop feeling like I was on the risk of being a loser. I know I loved my wife. My new wife at that point, my only wife, but she was my new wife at that juncture, and I certainly wanted to deliver for her, for the family I knew we were going to start, and so there was a great deal of passion in my emotion for wanting to do well and become better, a better man, better human being, learn how to be a leader. And then learn how to run a business for the first time in my life, zeroed in on making and saving money. I'd never been much of a leader outside of a Boy Scout troop. And certainly if you talk to the other Boy Scouts, there would have been some real, a variety of opinions of what kind of leader I was there. But, then I was 14 and 15, so obviously a lot to learn. And now we started our business, and I was 28 years old, and I'd been exposed to some good coaches because I'd worked in an athletic program at San Jose, in the athletic program at San Jose State, and that exposure was good. Now I was being exposed to leaders in the company that I was a part of, and I started getting some mentorship. We're not here to talk about mentorship, but wow, what a difference that made. Not kind of stumbling around in the dark, but getting real clear direction about how to do things and when to do things and that kind of stuff. And then, but then I was sitting in a meeting, and shoot, guys, I don't even know if I was 29 yet. If I was, I just turned 29. And the leader of the company, the founder of the company, was up in front talking to us as a group of SMDs. There were just a couple hundred of us. And he started talking about reading a book called Think and Grow Rich by a man named Napoleon Hill. And the book then, I know it's had a couple of modifications and some different kinds of printings and format, but back then on page 36 was 6 steps, what he called 6 steps to turn your desires into gold. And really what that was built around is how to develop a plan for your life, and mainly focused on your kind of your business path, career path life, but how to turn your desire for accomplishment and achievement into its financial equivalent, or in other words, turn it into money. I got to admit, I never felt comfortable like just writing money down as my motivation. So I made an adjustment to it and wrote it down in the terms of recruits and sales production. And so I substituted those words, recruits and sales production, for where I would be writing down dollar amounts. Now, I did put into my plan amounts I wanted to make and save, more importantly, save, and when I wanted to have certain amounts accumulated and all of that. As I mentor people now, one of the questions I ask is, for people just coming up, when are you going to have your first million saved? It's a startling question to most. I mean, overwhelmingly, in the 90 percentiles, a startling question, in that they don't have a date set for when they're going to have their first million saved. And with no deadline, that's a problem. We'll talk more about that in a minute. Also, there's no plan, and it'd be a very simple plan for that is, how much money do you need to save every month between now and the date you set in order to achieve saving $1 million, and what kind of interest rate is it going to earn? And once you've determined a date, then you take a look at where you are right now, and you take a look at how many months in between, and you calculate it. You can calculate just on principle by dividing the number of months into $1 million, and it would tell you. But if you calculate an 8% rate of return or a 10% rate of return, you could then also get a feeling for what kind of contribution the interest will make to that. But the reality is, I remember doing that, because that's what he showed that day. He talked about page 36. He talked about the 6 steps. He talked about him designing his savings and accumulation plan. And he put down the amount he had to save, in his opinion, to be financially independent. It was a very simple plan, because he had been a teacher, a high school teacher, and he was making in the South back in the, I guess he was starting back then. He wrote that plan in the late 60s, and he was making $30,000 a year with coaching. It doesn't sound like anything now. It sounds like poverty, which it would be, especially here California, this area we live in, Silicon Valley. But the reality was, they were making it as a family fine with $30,000 a year. And so he wrote down what would he have to do. So his amount was, he figured at 10% rate of return, if he had $300,000 in savings, it would be making him $30,000 a year, and matching his full-time income just off passive income or investment income. And he would see that as his simple plan for becoming financially independent. Of course, he went way beyond that, ultimately became a billionaire. But the reality is, that's where it started. He started thinking about, what was it going to take? What did he have to do? What did he have to save? How much every month? What was the deadline for it? What kind of rate of return? Because let's say for you, financial independence was, if you had $250,000 coming into your household, you'd be fat and happy, let's say, right? That $250,000, $250,000 a year was coming in. So you'd need to calculate, well, at 10%, that'd be $2.5 million, wouldn't it? And so if you had $2.5 million in savings and you were making 10% of your money, that would be bringing you $250,000 a year, no matter what you were doing for a living and how much extra income what you were earning with your career was making you. That would be what your family, in your opinion, because that's what you would set, well provided for. And so these things have great power. I'm pausing for a reason. I want you to absorb that sentence. These things have great power because they target us and they focus us. And we'll talk more about this. Now, let's talk about the process of this a little bit after that intro. And let's talk about step one. we all need, almost all of us need, and probably all of us. I'm looking at the end of this year and thinking about, I don't have quite enough mental clarity. I have a plan in mind. I have things written down, but I need to tweak it a little bit and clarify the plan a little bit, focus it a little bit more, so I can increase my mental clarity. Again, talking about power, that there's great power in mental clarity and great power in putting your dreams on paper. Now, that's not all you're doing in developing a plan. You're going to salt your plan, so to speak, or what would you call it, when you're cooking and you're putting in different ingredients to get it flavor, right? And so you're flavoring as you put these different things in it to give it a certain taste. You do that with your plan, salting it with your dreams, because it inspires you. Because I've seen people write very dry plans. Well, I got to talk to this many people to get this many people, invited. This many people invited to get this many recruits. This many recruits to get, And you read that, and that has some usefulness, knowing what the numbers are, but it's very dry. There's one thing knowing what to do, and there's a second and very powerful thing about wanting to do it. We all can idly, and we all have idly sat, laid in bed, whatever it was, stood in the shower, and idly thought about different things we wish were in our life. Great financial independence, a better home, a better situation for our children. You wish you could help your parents more. Just lots of things like that. And that's great. But you don't have a plan. But you could have a plan, but what's going to engage your emotions with this? This is a big deal. So our step one in this winning process right now, so let's say between now, what's today, 21st, right? Is between now and the 31st, New Year's Eve, all right, over this next 10 days, you have a chance to dramatically change your life with what I'm talking about here, or dramatically accelerate it. This, with mentoring, were the two most powerful things I did in the business. They got me where, they got us, more appropriately, Cindy and I, to where we are today. And so, we need to increase your mental clarity. We also need to increase and intensify our focus. In other words, if you don't think about your vision morning, noon, and night, then it doesn't have enough power in your life. Now, don't worry about becoming one-dimensional. We're going to address that. Because I want you to have a vision about, ideally, your spiritual life, whatever that might be. Certainly, you're striving to become a better person. Next, you need to have your vision for, if you have a family, for your relationships, those important relationships. What is your vision, for me as a husband? What was my vision as a father? What was my vision as a son to my parents? These things I wanted a plan on. I wanted mental clarity on who I wanted to become as a man, and what kind of spiritual growth I wanted to have, what kind of vision I wanted to have for being a family man, and then I wanted a clear vision and passion engaged, just like with the previous two, for being a businessman. And so those were my big three. And I have kind of pretty deep conviction that you can't have 8 of them. It takes us in too many directions. It's like someone trying to be good at 8 sports, and you end up pretty much guaranteeing you're going to be mediocre at all of them. So I did simplify my life. I love to play golf. I cut way back on, well, I basically almost eliminated. I was a tennis player in college. That went away too. And you certainly should write some things about staying in shape and putting an hour into exercise every day. But beyond that, these were the big three. They were my top priority. Nothing was as important as that. Becoming a better golfer or winning some golf tournaments just wasn't important compared to what I wanted to do in business to bless our lives, to take care of our family, right? And of course, what I want, the activity level I wanted to have in our church, the service I wanted to provide so that I could continue to grow and become a more compassionate man and becoming less selfish and all of these things. So I don't want to lose you here, but I needed mental clarity in all three of those, and I had dreams in each one. I needed intensified focus. I needed to know what my vision was in each one of those. I needed to be thinking about that vision for each one of those all the time. That had to occupy my thoughts, not daydreaming, not just kind of drifting, not going to a movie, and just goofing around with my friends. That season I put behind me, right, with the process I'm talking about here. Step 3 is burning desire. Remember I said you can have a plan, but you got to want to do it, right? Or you can want it, but you don't have a plan. It's combining the two. It's kind of like gunpowder, putting it in a shell, putting a bullet on it, then having a rifle. The rifle and the bullet's the plan. The gunpowder is your desire. And you strike a match to that with your clarity and your focus, and all of a sudden you can put a bullet in a target 1,000 yards out. And you can't throw that far. That burning desire is your fuel. And you've got to feel the frustration of seeing and believing in your dreams and wanting your dreams, but of not having them. I wanted peace of mind. I wanted financial peace of mind. I wanted to stop worrying about bills. I wanted to stop feeling that feeling we were feeling because we were out of money at the end of the month. And that there were things we wanted to do we couldn't do. We wanted a home. We wanted a home in a decent neighborhood. We wanted to experience that for raising our family. And we were just miles away from being able to do that financially. And that frustration started building, right? You got to feel that frustration of not yet achieving these things. You've got to let it burn in you. It's okay, right, to feel those feelings. Don't avoid it. Don't hide from it. Don't keep escaping into other things. Look them straight on. That's why we're going to get it down on paper and talk about this in a minute. You see, I believe in obsession, but I also believe in healthy obsessions. It's a healthy obsession to be absolutely determined that we want to become a better man and to increase my spiritual strength. It's a healthy obsession to want to be a great husband and father and grandfather and son. And it's a wonderful obsession to want to do something fabulous in business, especially in a business like ours. This just isn't about gathering wealth. It's about touching lives, because our system requires us to build other leaders, to see other lives be enhanced. It requires us to go into homes and coach people and protect families and help them set their saving goals and ask them when they're going to have their first million saved, those kinds of things, right? That's a healthy obsession. Allow yourself to embrace the thought of becoming obsessed. People are going to think you're crazy because most of the world doesn't know how to do that. They don't know how to go all in. They don't sell out. They don't work at it with that kind of drive. Everybody's busy thinking about their next recreation. And that's one of the weaknesses I see a lot in the company leak into some of our weaker players who don't understand this, of what it takes to become great at something. And they can't wait for their next recreation. The next trip or whatever it is. And nothing wrong with taking trips, time and place. right? But that shouldn't be your obsession. Becoming financial independent should become your obsession. Not the next party you're going to have, or the next time you're going to show off you're spending a lot of money. And so we didn't show off much, but we became financially independent. Now we have a great life. Yeah, don't get started on that. That's actually another webinar. So I want you thinking and strategizing and moving closer to these dreams in your life, in your important areas that you're going to go ahead and become obsessed with. I want you to become closer to them every day. That means they've got to be on paper. You've got to be thinking about them, right? Morning, noon, and night. You've got to allow yourself to feel that frustration that fuels that burning desire that causes us to go beyond our fears and our doubts and cause us to grow, even when sometimes we're a little afraid. And then letting it ultimately grow into healthy obsession where people just see you as one intense son of a gun, or daughter of a gun, I guess, and you are after it, right, and making these things happen. And so there we are. I want you to learn how to feed your vision and starve your fears. And that's what happened to me. I was afraid to talk to people. I was afraid I couldn't win. I was afraid I'd get excited and I'd begin to lose my excitement. Like I'd done that with some things in my life. I was afraid maybe I wasn't good enough. All of those things. But because I fed my vision, got mental clarity, intensified my focus, got it in print, salted it with my dreams, built up that desire and frustration, allowed myself to feel it, allowed myself to want it, started building that obsession, and all of a sudden that crowded out everything else. I was just after it. Sure, I was still nervous standing up in front of a BPM or a corporate overview. Sure, I was still nervous going to the homes in the beginning, but I was going to do it because I had that intensity, I had that desire. And then after doing it, I got better and better at it, and my fear went away. And all of a sudden, I just had the obsession, the drive, and the focus left. And guess what happened? Yeah. You don't mind me saying we kicked ass on these things. And we made them come true. And it turned me, a mediocre, non-achieving person with no money, and moved his wife into his mobile home, into something more than that. It did it for both of us. Because Cindy did this too, for her, and had her version of it. So, let's talk about now the actual doing of it. We're going to get specific in how you take what I kind of discussed in concept here and put it into hard words, black and white, on paper. Right? So you can have this go. And so this is the method that was described in Think and Grow Rich. I've translated it for our business. And then I'm going to show you what I wrote, after I studied this out from the book, after I was challenged to do so by one of my mentors. We're going to talk about goals, we're going to talk about objectives, and then we're going to talk about deadlines. Okay? First, let's say here we were, beginning January 1, you want to have fixed in your mind the exact number of recruits, sales, promotions, income, savings, etc., that you desire for the month of January and for 2017. You've got to be definite as to the amount, right? You just can't say vague things, lots of, many. That loses power. Without that clarity, you can't get the focus. So I would come to every month knowing exactly how many recruits I want my base shop to have that month, my super base to have, right? Exactly the sales volume that we wanted to have that month, right? And I had done numbers for the year, the promotions that I wanted to occur in my base, and I was talking to those leaders about becoming licensed, about becoming associates, about becoming, field trained to become associates, about becoming senior associates, marketing directors, if I'm using that promotion level, and when they were going to hit SMD. And so we were talking, and I was helping them get exact. I was clear into what kind of income I wanted to earn that month, what kind of income I want to earn in 2017, how much we were going to save. And so these things we put down. I'll put down other things here in a minute. But you got to get the exact number down. You've got to be definite as to the amount. Otherwise, this isn't going to work. There's something about, you understand that this is determined by people a lot smarter than me that have done all kinds of research. Our mind doesn't engage in the way that we need it to without exactness, without definite amounts. Okay, we'll apply that principle in a couple other ways here. You've got to determine exactly what you intend to give in return to achieve your goals and dreams. I mean, you really got to negotiate with yourself. You got to sit down. I was married, so I had to sit down with Cindy, with my sweetheart, and we had to talk about what price were we willing to pay. How many hours? How many days a week? We're willing to give up. We had season tickets to 3 different college football programs. We went with a bunch of friends, on football season. We went to basketball games. We went to Civic Light Opera like we had anything. We were pretending back then. But we had all these things we did. I played tennis. I played golf. And we had recreations. We had to decide what were we willing to give. And I want you to know we gave up all of that. And we decided we were going to give 6 days a week. By the way, in the beginning of 1981, we resolved we were going to give 7 days a week, which was stupid, by the way, in my opinion. It was stupid for us, I'll tell you that. Because we got like 42 days into the year, and we were miserable. Right? There's no end in sight ever. When you're talking about 7 days a week indefinitely. We started, then also we got involved with our church at about that time, literally not long after, and we started taking Sundays and going to church, and it felt like a vacation every week. And so we determined we were going to give 6 days and nights a week. We didn't give every Saturday night, but the fact is we were willing to. And we poured it on. So we determined that we were going to give that. We talked to our parents about it. We talked about how hard we were going to work. We explained it to some friends that we were close to, that this was our season to win. But you have to decide exactly. And we wrote it down. What were we willing? And it was a very simple sentence. We were willing to give night and day, 6 days a week to make this happen. Right? And we were going to pour it on. Why? Because we wanted to win. And then we defined what winning meant. And we let it mean something to us. We also had to determine a definite date for their achievement. So in other words, for the recruit sales, promotion, that was a monthly thing. Now, I had a goal of a certain number of SMD promotions during the year. And that was written into my plan. So that I would think, let's say I'd put down, I was going to promote 10 SMDs that year. Well, if it's May and I promoted 1, I need to be reminding myself every day that I'm not on pace, right? Because technically I should have 5 by the end of June. But did I have them coming up? Had I personally recruited enough? Was I wide enough? Did I see it happening? Did I see an exchange leg for one of my next SMD promotions that was strong, that I thought I could get to SMD before the end of the year? In other words, it caused me to think all those thoughts. If I hadn't been doing this, I wouldn't think those thoughts. I might write it down at the beginning of the year, and then I just drift through the year and look up, and it's December, and I didn't do anything what I wrote down in January, because I never had a plan. I never had a definite date. I wasn't reviewing it. But I'm telling you something, you've got to commit to your deadlines. While I didn't have a comprehensive plan early in my very beginning of my career, didn't have that level of understanding, I have been given a sheet, and the sheet had the promotion guidelines and the promotions of each position below. It wasn't called SMD in that company, but let's call it SMD so you understand the reference point. And there were a position of associate, and then another one, and then another one, and another one. So there are 4 instead of 3 like we had. And then you got to the SMD position. And so I looked at those goals, and it had a space to the right where I could write the date that I wanted to hit each one of those promotions. And this ended up, and I put it up and duplicated it, put it up in a bunch of places, looked at it all the time, put it up in my office, put it up, and at the house, put it in the car. And so I hit my first one, associate. I hit my second one, which was called sales leader. I hit my third one, was called district leader. But then there was a position called division that I didn't hit. It was a pretty substantial accomplishment, and I got behind. But I knew I was getting behind. And you know how you know when you're late, when you're supposed to be somewhere? You start rushing. You start running around the house, getting the stuff, grabbing the stuff. You get in the car, you try and go the way that's fastest. You try and make the lights. You probably break the speed limit if you're on the freeway because you have a deadline. Look at the difference in a football game when it comes to the 2-minute warning and how much seems to happen and can happen in 2 minutes. There's nothing like it. Even the 2 minutes in the end of the half is not like the 2 minutes at the end of the game. That's the power of deadlines. And so I had a power of a deadline for that position, and so I really redoubled my efforts to try and catch up so I could make my SMD deadline. Now, I didn't make it, but I got within 2 weeks of it. But I'd been 2 months behind my division promotion. But because of the deadline, it caused me to increase my intensity, my effort, and my focus. I couldn't have had a much simpler plan at that point. It was all built around my early promotions. But I had an exact number. I knew what the guidelines were. I had a date, right? And I was willing to work hard. Cindy and I had already been talking about that. And I had committed to it. And it had powerful results. So I earned my promotions earlier than most people, and anyway, enough said on that. This is just, if you're wondering why I talk about this as much as I do, why I have the passion I do about it, it's because it had such an overwhelming impact on my life. It changed everything for our family. The stuff I'm talking about right now changed the destiny of our family. So now you have exact numbers. You've determined what you're given in return. Right? You've got a date for accomplishment, and you're committing to it. Now let's talk a few minutes about inspiring yourself to do it. Right? So this is the process, right? This is the method that was described by Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich, and he was brilliant. Right? And so here's what the book taught me and what my mentor reinforced that I needed to do like he had done. You come down and you've written all this stuff down. And you read your written statement aloud. You say it out loud twice a day, morning and night. As you read it, this process is real important. Listen, you got to see and feel and believe yourself already in possession of what you desire. And you've written down you're gonna make this much. You already see it and feel it and believe it that you're in possession of it. When I had written down, save that first $1 million. $1 million was so much money for anything. I had $800 in savings, and that was the high watermark at the end of 1980. And then I ended up spending $600 of that going to a meeting in Alabama for the company, But because I had those savings goals down and it was focused, I'd saved $30,000 over the next 4 months after that. And it was exhilarating. Anyway, back to this. You see and feel and believe yourself already in possession. You got to see it before you have it. You know, I mean, there's that great line from, I think it was Miracle on 34th Street. But you know what? Probably a number of movies have used the concept. But where they say, no, it's in the Santa Claus. Now I remember. It's in the Santa Claus. Sorry, I'm confusing my Christmas movies. And it was the elf was saying to the new Santa Claus, seeing isn't believing. Believing is seeing. And so that last word, believing, and visualizing, right, and feeling how good it feels, moves you toward it. It increases your desire too. You got to see it before you have it. You got to see it, and you'll believe it, and then you'll get it. You think I'm talking hocus pocus? All right, go ahead and stay poor. All right, go ahead and stay frustrated. Right, but burning desire is critical. How good are you going to feel when you do it? So you see, feel, and believe yourself already in possession of what you desire. The things you want to do for your family, the things you want to do in your faith, the things you want to do financially, it's a big deal. With this, you've got to read good books, listen to good messages to continue to grow and be inspired. Let other people who've done lots of homework, done lots of studying, done lots of accomplishing, right? Listen to what they say, right? Read it. Help that fuel what you have written. Now, I want you also, and I'm going to show you an example of this now in a minute, write deep and important emotions into it. Combine this with something I'm going to call your top 10 list. We'll be back to that. Now, I want you to inspire yourself to do it, but a bunch of you are leaders, and you got to inspire others to do it. And so, real quick, let's hit this. You've got to help and challenge them to do exactly what I've been talking about with you so far. You got to help and challenge them to do the previous steps. You've got to help them. You got to help and challenge them to achieve their goals, not yours. You understand? Their goals, not yours. Nobody has any kind of obligation to help you achieve your goals. I don't get pumped up about somebody else's goals. I get pumped up about hitting mine. Hey, I may like you and appreciate you, and I'm excited you're getting recognized. I remember my mentors. I was excited for their success, for their prosperity. I took some pride in it because I contributed to it and all that stuff. That wasn't 2% of the way I felt about my own. The things I wanted to do for Cindy and I and our children and all this stuff, and the way I wanted to feel about myself, right? So please, don't get all jacked up talking to them about your goals. Help them get jacked up talking to them about their goals. Yeah? Yeah. Important thing to understand. And have and keep high positive expectations with standards of excellence in people's lives. Help them set goals that are meaningful enough that if they achieve them, it gets them somewhere. Right? You know, right now, I've got to help my father-in-law learn to speak again. He can't speak. And his right side is substantially paralyzed. Now, this is early, and he can come back from that, but the bleeding was in the area where his speech was controlled. And now he literally cannot form a word. You know, it's heartbreaking, right, to look at that with someone you love. But right now, I've got to help him understand he can do it, that it's worth it, not to give up. I know how to do that. I learned it here. And we got to set simple goals. He's got to form that first word. Hi. You know? Hello. Love you. We've got to start over, right? But I'm going to keep those positive expectations with him. So is Cindy, right? And we're going to help him move forward with expectation. He is going to walk again. He is going to speak again. All of this is going to happen. We are going to do it. We have a plan, right? We're organizing it. We'll have to get it in writing, right? We're going to put up some goals around him. We're going to get on this thing, right? So this understanding ends up being applied to many things in your life. And you build on it. right? And you help other people build on it. All these life experiences help you become a better person and a better leader, and frankly, more impactful in the lives of the people around you. So there we are. You've got to inspire yourself to do it. You've got to inspire others to do it, because you can't get where you want to go if you don't have other people doing, achieving, and accomplishing, and excelling, and you got to help them happen. Help it happen. I could say the words. Here we go. I'm learning to talk too. Let's talk about a personal plan now. I'm going to give you an actual written example, simple one, a concise one. There's great power in this process of you learning to do this, getting exact amounts of things, fixed amounts of things you want, writing down why you want it, what you're willing to give in return for it. You're writing down also the deadlines for it. All these things are powerful. Then you start reading it aloud twice a day with emotion. People thought I was crazy if they ever saw me doing it, because there were a few times where I was at an event or at a retreat, and there are other people around when I was going to bed, and I'd read it before I went to bed, and it'd stare at me like I was a crazy man, as I went down, practically jumping up and down, saying my plan, talking about how I was going to be number one, and saving all this money and being the best and a champion, and competing and winning, and it was like a locker room talk, at halftime or before you go out of the game. And I did. I gave it to myself every morning and every night. I went to bed with these thoughts swimming in my head. The exact amounts I wanted to accomplish, where I stood on it, were we close, was I playing catch up, whatever it was, right? Yeah. So here we go. Do I have the top 10 in here? Anyone? Okay. I'm going to do something verbally that I did at the beginning of my plan. I don't have it reviewed in here. But I did, and I'm challenging all of you to do it, if you haven't already. If you haven't been reading that, challenge you start reading it again. If it needs to be refreshed for it to have the power you want it to have on you, then refresh it. But I wrote down my top 10 reasons. And what does that mean? The top 10 reasons why I wanted to become excellent, why I wanted to do something great in business. I wrote them down. Excuse me. The things I wanted to deliver for Cindy, the things I wanted to deliver for our children, the things I wanted to deliver for my mom and dad, the person I wanted to become, the difference I wanted to make in my community. I wrote those things down, how I wanted to feel about myself. My top 10 reasons for wanting to be somebody. My top 10 reasons for wanting to do something great with my life. These things, about personal growth, all that stuff, these things energized me. I really did want to deliver for Cindy, Alicia, Richard, and Brett. I really did want to take care of my parents because I knew I was going to have to. And here we are, doing exactly that. And it's interesting, we were in a hospital, and they were talking about what arrangements we were making, and that he was going to need 24-hour care. And Cindy was talking to them, and they said, how are you going to do that? Do you have family members? Well, no, we can get help in addition to what we can provide. And they said, well, most people don't have the financial capacity to do something like that. And Cindy simply said, we do, and left it at that. Powerful words right then. We do. Started in a plan. It started with writing all this stuff down. The odds are, if you aren't already, you're going to have to help your folks. You need to take care of them. Maybe that ought to be in your top 10 reasons. I don't know. It wasn't ours. And I'm sure glad it was. So we started planning decades ago for what we have today. Just as we did with our own financial independence and these other things. Write down a top 10 reasons as to why you want to be somebody and accomplish this stuff. Now, I'm going to read you something. This is personal. you may not feel the same way. You may be a woman writing about a man. I'm a man, and I wrote about a woman, right? That's where I have. I'm not going to discuss that anymore, right? I'm simply saying this is what I wrote. You would modify it according to what you would write, right? I respect that. So this is one of the things I wrote in relation to who I wanted to be in one of those obsessions, right? My family obsession. I am and must constantly strive to be a great, loving husband and father. A loving, warm, tender, happy home life with my family is the way to experience heaven on earth. I will find deep happiness and peace through my service to my family. My commitment and focus is constant and eternal in perspective. I will be positive and with humor look on the bright side of how wonderful our life together is and will always be. We will work together to have patience, self-respect, respect for each other, trust, harmony, and fun. We will regularly count our blessings. We will be unselfish and serve one another. We will honor our parents. I will be creative and thoughtful in my romance with Cindy. I've left a blank there for you to fill it in. I have a dream wife. We will share many wonderful times together as I focus my love on her happiness. We will have weekly dates and regular, exciting mini honeymoons. One of my favorite things in life, regular, exciting mini honeymoons. Woo! Okay, I'm back to my plan. See, I get emotional about that one. I am father to 3 remarkable children who will know every day their father loves, respects, and believes in them. I have a private, loving, one-on-one listening interview with each of them every week. I'm not doing that anymore. I probably should start again. I will set this appointment every Sunday for the week following. My role as a husband and father is my greatest joy and responsibility on this earth. I am happy as I commit all I have to their happiness. I'm so blessed to be a husband and family man. My heart is full, and this blessing is truly wonderful. So that was what I read to myself morning and night with energy, with passion, with emotion about my family life. Now think about it. Do you think this helped our family have a better life? Do you think reading something like that, reminding them I'm going to regularly count my blessings, that we're going to have patience and respect for each other, trust and harmony and fun, that I was going to be creative and thoughtful in my romance with Cindy, right? That I was reminding myself that I wanted my children to know every day that I loved, respected, and believed in them, that I had good listening interviews with them, right? That I understood that my role as a husband and father is my greatest joy and responsibility on this earth. You know, think about how much that programming helped me. How much, that's not very long, is it? Does it take you 3 minutes to read? 2 minutes to read? And yet it has such a profound impact on how I conducted my life every day as it related to my family. It would have a profound impact on you. Think how much better off the world would be if each of us was reading our version of this. You could be single and you could be writing about how you want to be with your parents, how you want to be with your friends, or you could be in a relationship and you could be coaching yourself on how you want to conduct yourself in that relationship. Then if you are in a marriage relationship, you could be talking about it from a perspective, great loving, right, wife and mother. Yeah, at this age, you could write grandmother or grandfather. There's great power in this. Now, I didn't so much have deadlines in this one, but I had a whole process of how we were going to live our life. There we go. Right? This, because I don't have a deadline in my marriage. I don't have a deadline for being a father. That's eternal. So I didn't need to keep deadlines. I needed to be clear on who I was going to be and how I was going to conduct myself. This governed my beliefs. My belief that my role as husband and father is my greatest joy and responsibility, of course, shaped all the sentences above it. But see how good that could be for us? Think about you coming into the new year with something like that about your family. Look, if that's all you did, You never made a sale. You never got a recruit. But you learned to do this and put it into practice the rest of your life. Think how enhanced you would be in your personal life. Pretty cool. Let's go on. Let's talk about a financial one. Let's take these same principles, same process, apply to your financial life. This is fun too. Here we go. This is where I start. This is how I started reading my financial plan, so to speak. Great debt-free financial strength. That just sounds like fun. Great debt-free financial strength. By the way, it still sounds like fun. So here's seeing, feeling, and believing. Even before I was. I am wealthy, debt-free, and independent. I will continue to hold my conservative, service-oriented, debt-despising philosophy. I am achieving all the following objectives by increasing my income and controlling my expenses. It feels fabulous to experience total financial independence. See, I get fired up just reading it, but this is how you read it, right? From January to December, I will put blank per month, whatever it was. Let's say you had a mortgage, you wanted to pay it off, right? Blank per month on my home mortgage to pay off my last remaining debt. I will never need or want to borrow again. I will have blank amount in personal cash savings, 100,000, 500,000, million, 10 million, 100 million, right? These are all numbers I have dealt with. And so I throw that out to you to understand how the process goes. It might start for you, your first 50,000. It might be your first 25,000. I don't know where you are in your life. But write it down. Give yourself a deadline. I will have this amount in personal cash savings by December 2017. I will save an average of blank per month. Yeah, bring it. Let's go. Let's get our acts together financially. Let's change our lives. Let's be able to take care of our loved ones. Let's get secure. Let's get more peace of mind. Woo! I'm getting fired up again. This is the stuff I think about. Right? So I have a conservative, service-oriented, debt-despising philosophy. Right? Yeah, sick 'em. I have blank amount in liquid assets by January 1, 2017. Right? Because there are two kinds of net worth. It includes real estate and some cars and jewelry and stuff. But what's liquid? That's the stuff that really makes you feel good. Not that a couple billion in real estate wouldn't make you feel good. But you understand what I mean. At this stage of the game, that's not your deal. And so you want to have a clear number of liquid assets by a deadline. And you're constantly resetting it, right? If you achieved it early, you'd up the amount. I remember one year, I set an amount of having liquid assets by January 1 of the following year, and I'd achieved it by June. So I simply whited this number out, put in the new number, and went for it. Kept keeping the same deadline. So like I say, the plans are always dynamic as you're achieving this stuff. And so then I'd say, how? Tighten up and stay tight on personal and business expenses. Have a clear written line item budget for personal and business, which I did. My career effort is in large part wasted without financial discipline. Update these objectives regularly. I'm a great steward and love winning financially. Right? So it starts out great debt-free financial strength. Now, think about it again, just like I talked to you about the family thing. What if you had this? What if you'd had it for the last 10 years of your life? Shoot, I wish I could get kids to start reading it when they're 5. Kind of hard for them to connect the dots. But the reality is, this stuff can be taught. Think about the power in your life going forward if you are clearly defined in this area. Because right now here, I talk about this. Human beings have two amazing capacities. I think I talked about this in the last webinar. Whatever. Is we love to procrastinate. Well, I don't know if we love it, but we procrastinate and we drift. Happens all the time. Right? And you've got to fight that. Those dramatic human weaknesses. You've done enough drifting. Get focused. Get on a plan. Get it specific. Get fired up about it. About your family life. about your financial life. Now let's talk about just applying it directly to your base, running a base shop in the business, right? People you're recruiting, and your super base. If you're an associate and you have a recruit, you have a base. You two are it. If you're a senior associate, you have a small team gathering, that's your base. MD, same thing. SMD, that's traditionally what we're referring to when we talk about your base, but they're all a base shop as we call it. So let's talk about what you might, as a sample, want to read to yourself, applying these principles from that great book, Think and Grow Rich. Listen to how they're all in there. Clarity, right? Click goals. The ability to read it, because it's in print. And then I was reading it morning and night. I was doing it with emotion. I was seeing myself in possession of these things, right? And so here we go. So let's go to base and super base plan. And then you could write your own simple, you need to write your own. The struggle of writing each of these is part of its power. It causes you to think through. It's interesting. Well, I'm running out of time here. How late can we go? Okay, whenever. Good, okay. You guys, I may go a little over, so bear with me if you can. I was listening to a church leader. Saturday morning leadership session here not too long ago. One of the major church leaders of our church. And he was talking about how he reads Scripture. He takes a paperback copy of Scripture, and he writes a question in the beginning of it that he wants to ponder as he's studying, an overall question. Since we're Christian, it'd be how might I grow closer, right, to Christ, or enhance my divine relationships, or whatever it might be, and increase my faith and decrease my fear. And then he would mark the Scriptures and make comments in the margins as they occurred to him as he studied. And then he would fold that. Then when he finished reading it that time, he'd fold it up, stick it in there, and take another paperback, write another question, and start again. And he has a whole bookcase full of them. His son came to him and said, "Dad, can I look at those and what you've written?" And he said, "No. Touch them, and I'll break your arm," right? Kidding, of course. And he said, "Well, Dad, we're going to inherit them, be able to look at them that way." He says, "I think with my dying breath, I'll make sure they bury them with me." He said, "But I will buy you the bookcase." His point was, it was the process of doing what he did that made him the spiritual leader that he is. And his son just can't read somebody else's stuff and develop the same way. Otherwise, I could just mail this to you. You can certainly get some ideas from it, just like I got the ideas from Think and Grow Rich. But you've got to do this struggle to write what you need to write in relation to your personal life, in relation to your financial life, and in relation to your business. But I'm giving you examples so you can understand the power of it. So let me race through this. So this is what I started reading as I was working in the business. Think about this now. What's happening here? Think about how differently I performed than most of the people around me in the companies I was in, and then as we started our own. Think about how much more effective I was. Not because I was smarter, not because I was a better man, not because I put in more hours, but because I was more laser focused on the right stuff, morning, noon, and night, and more energized emotionally because of how I programmed myself, how I fueled myself. I'm nothing special otherwise. But just like if you give fuel and the flame more oxygen, it burns with more power and with greater heat. This is how I gave my fire more oxygen. You know, when there's a strong wind, a forest fire has more trouble. Not only do embers blow in the wind, but it gets more oxygen so it burns brighter and hotter and faster. So this is how I got myself to burn brighter, hotter, and faster. You all have the capacity for this. The question is, will you do it? Will you do what it takes to bring this out in you? I challenge you to do it. I aspire and hope you will do it. For the good that it'll do in your life, in your personal life, your spiritual life, you desire that, and of course in your business life. So here we go. I must be more intense about what will win for my family and our team than I've ever been before. All the work we've done up to now has been to prepare us for this move. Do not waste this golden opportunity to win big. I constantly want to remind myself of the timing of things, you guys. That's why I started with that. Lead the team more energetically and enthusiastically every day. Everything you've wanted to achieve is on the line. This rare time will not last forever. Give it all you have. We must gear up recruiting constantly. This is my greatest strength and ability. Attack, attack, attack. We must do more than, and then I put in the amount, 50 recruits and 100,000 points in the base, right? And 200 recruits, right? And 500,000 points in the super base in January of 2017. So whatever it was, and I updated that every month. When I had it written out in a notepad, I just updated it. Now, a lot of you have it in the computer and just change the numbers and print a new one, right? However it works out, doesn't matter. But you've got to have constantly your updated numbers. See, most of you go into every month without your numbers clear in your head. You're certainly not reading it morning and night, thinking about it all day, and you don't have a plan for achieving it. So no wonder. Don't think of yourself as a loser, a non-achiever, you don't have the ability. Man, you aren't programmed. I mean, a computer comes off the line and it has no software. It literally is useless. It might as well be a brick. You know, instead of the smartphone, if it doesn't have any software, you might as well be holding a brick in your hand. Right? I'm talking about your software now. You all have the computer. You have brilliant hardware. Right? I want you to give yourself brilliant software. So let's keep going. Be intense about these goals and what you need to do to accomplishment. Here it comes. I am willing to give most of my time, 6 days a week, and invest a great deal of emotional intensity and mental energy to achieve total victory in my business. I'll be constantly positive. I'm going to grind it out and love it. Remember, you have to write down what you're willing to give? That was that paragraph for us, right? My ultimate priority is rapid, effective growth. We must always be after it. Every day is important. All of us need to be talking about the same things. It's got to be kept simple and consistent. Be obsessed with recruiting. Never take your concentration off of it. Now, you may have slightly different objectives. Change them according to what you want from your business. This is what I was doing. I wanted to build a super team. Right? At that point, I wanted to be 75% of the code numbers of the company I was in. And we did it. Right? But this is how. Never take your concentration off it. Recruiting is our business. Always talk it. Constantly challenge the team and our leadership to recruit, build, and lead. You feeling the power of this at all? You see how already you're going into the day differently? Mindset's different. Energy level's different. Focus is different. Now you look at the board. Now you start asking what happened last night. What, did we get these AMAs in? What's the number? What's showing on the computer? Let's go, let's go, let's go. It continues. I have some numbering here. Probably should have taken it off. I didn't number the other stuff. I think even we have another page. I noticed this. Now we've got that. Okay, we're good there. Here we go. My base shop. It's just a base shop thing now. Now I'm into it. My base shop is the originating source of all power, prestige, and income, and the key to the big time. I'm talking about in the business. Right? Power, prestige, income, and the key to the big time. Right? In my career, WFG, excuse me, that's WA is with the first one. I must build and maintain a giant base shop, my number one priority. I must also build a huge first generation team of however many SMDs, my overall goal, 100 SMDs in order to have a chance at total victory. Think big and keep it simple. I've got to be willing to do the same things over and over again. This has to be a special effort. Work hard. Set a superb personal example. Keep your personal activity high. Continue to personally recruit and field train as an example to others that never quit the number one job, which is personal recruit and field train. Follow up every aspect of our recruiting system. Control the point of contact. Make sure the new recruit is being helped to contact their natural market effectively. Motivate leaders to help. Talk invitations constantly. Always keep the pipeline full. Always create a high expectation of heavy recruiting activity. All big winners recruit big. Make sure BPM attendance, new and old, is rising. See how this kept my focus, you guys? See how I stayed on top of this stuff? While other people were drifting and distracting themselves and worrying about how the home office is handling their stuff, or some personnel issue on their team they're getting all worked up about. Not me. I'm zeroed in, baby, right? I know what I got to be working on. Eye of the tiger. Let's keep going. Do an effective BPM and teach it to others. Make sure the BPM teams of our organization are motivated and enthusiastic and know their responsibility. Follow up all interviews, meetings, and classes to make sure they're motivational and enthusiastic. Keep the team on fire. Make sure more and more new and old people are coming to our meetings. How did it go there? We're missing a slide here. Sorry, you guys, I have a technical difficulty. It's supposed to go to here. Is that here? Is that not inserted? Okay, guys, I am now going to orally, and we'll add this. We'll correct this so that when it's published, we'll get it right. Check. Checking. Nope. Okay, just missed one, right? We good? Yep. Okay. You guys, we're going to hold this for a second, and I'm going to read 8 through 14, which got left out. Like I said, we'll add this slide. So I went from follow-up interviews, make sure more and more new and old people are coming to our meetings, and then I'd remind myself of this. We must recruit above ourselves. Check age, marital, financial, and business status of our recruits. Make sure AMAs are in rapidly. It's still a sense of urgency in our leaders to follow up fast. That's how I controlled the quality of recruit, which, by the way, controlled my net point ratio, which controlled my profitability. So I just reminded myself that we got to recruit above ourselves and always be checking on the quality of our recruits, right? And by the way, I taught everybody else in the team to be saying and reading these same things to themselves. And it's still that sense of urgency, right? People need to have it. Start our recruits fast. Challenge recruiting and field training from day one. Focus them on their SMD promotion. We are an SMD factory. Always be an outspoken crusader. Educate the team on how and why we're right all the time. Make sure our recruits own the product. Make sure all who attend the BPM and those who don't are followed up for product. That's the new guests, right? Promote base shop meetings, business format schools, fundamental workshops, training events, and big events. Use these as tools to stimulate increased activity among the team. Capture their imagination. Stretch their vision. Constantly review the field proficiency of our leaders. Always check new and existing leadership here. 14, expect a high volume activity from all leaders on the team. A good active base shop leader should be involved in at least 4 recruits and 8 sales per month. All levels in this business should be making a good income. Hold up successful members as heroes, as they set winning examples. All right, now we're coming back to the print. Like I say, we'll add that slide. It'll be complete when it goes out of here. Next, 15, our base leaders must know how to and do, and here's a good checklist for you. Do business plan and set goals. Develop and maintain your prospect list, your target market list. How to invite people to BPMs. All our base leaders got to know how to do this. They got to know how to control the point of contact. In other words, help somebody else to do it. MoZone, sharp BPM protocols. You got to understand the energy before, during, and after. How you run these meetings. That's a big part of our recruiting environment. Run powerful, sincere BPMs in classes. Do good follow-up interviews. Recruit people one-on-one. In other words, I want them to have a good presentation one-on-one when they're talking to people that way. Be AMA aggressive, right? Have that urgency. Let's get these people on board and get them started. Sell, field train effectively. Use the referral system. Use the matchup system. And in other words, when you got a bunch of recruits, you got to match up other people with it. Meet all compliance requirements. Promote team meetings, business format school. In other words, how to promote the events. Right? And follow up and monitor every aspect of this all the time. This is what I wanted our leaders to know how to do. Because I kept reminding myself of that, I kept reminding them of it. I kept making sure. I'd interview them. I'd ask where they stood. What were they doing? I followed up whether they were staying in the quality market. Followed up how they were helping their people make contact in their market. Followed up on how effective a field trainer they were. Were they passing on? Had they learned and were they passing on the referral system? Right? Did they understand the importance of and power of compliance? Were they moving people to the meetings? Woo! Right? Now think about it. What if you don't have something you review like this? What, are you just hoping they'll pick it up? Well, you're not thinking about it enough. Why would they think about it enough? Again, you see the power of this? Keep going. And then I'd remind myself, this stuff always really energized me to read. I loved it. It's interesting. I gained a lot of energy when I started reading this. You know, this stuff fires me up, what I'm going to read between now and 25, and the end of this. Communicate. Make constant phone and personal contact with all active people in your base. Zero in on your best players and give them firm direction. Build a powerful phone, voicemail, note, letter, email, newsletter, and now you'd write texting. Mega habit. I am a compulsive communicator. Talk to your first-generation SMDs and key leaders every week about their recruiting numbers, points, their possibility thinking. Inspire them to excel. Meet with them personally once a month. Produce at least blank new first-generation SMDs by December 31st, 2017. In other words, how many is I producing that year? Meet with our leaders at all levels all the time. Watch for and ask about promising newcomers. Constantly set goals and motivate your leaders in terms of what will turn them on. Go over the goals and plan of action for each key manager regularly. Struggle to grow and improve yourself. My performance and abilities in the areas of motivation, communication, recognition, and personal relationships must always be improving. Concentrate on becoming better every day. Within all of my work, keep a great positive attitude. Express love and praise constantly to the team. Search for reasons to recognize and praise. Develop a creative and active recognition program. Always work hard to make others feel good. Always be in the dream selling business. Sell the dream, sell the dream, sell the dream. Now I talk about it in terms of terminology as a better life. I'd always be talking to people about having a better life. Right? Have a better life, have a better life, have a better life. Come on, that's why we're here. Let's build a better life together. Come on. Think bigger, think bigger, think bigger. Think bigger than you ever have before. Always crank it up. Never accept defeat. Keep attacking. Make and save big money. Earn $20 million. I'm just trying to get you to think bigger. Earn $25 million by December 31st, 2017. Save $15 million in the key, you know. I'm not trying to annoy you. But put your amount, save blank per month, and accumulate blank by the end of the year. Dang it, don't go into 2017 without having that written down. They say, well, I already read that in my financial plan. Yeah, I put it at the end of my business plan too, right? Because it was arm in arm with it. I wanted to separate it because it's so important with simple numbers where I focus myself in the morning, right after I focus about the kind of person I want to be in my family. Then, boom, I brought it back at the end of my business plan. Get it. Sick 'em. Here we go. To win big and be happy, my priorities must be in order. I will fulfill spiritual, family, emotional, physical, and financial goals. I will always keep an eternal perspective. A winner is a winner in all areas of his life. This is life's great challenge. Don't ever let up. Be competitive. Be intense. You're meant to be number one. Don't let anybody take your spot at the top. Always be in the hunt. Be disciplined. Manage your time and praise God. Attend to your family. Do all the things you need to do to win big. Whoa! That's how I finished that plan. Every morning, every night. All right. Now, at this point, you think I'm a wacko or I've made an impression on you. I'm sorry if you think I'm a wacko. Right? My challenge to you is take what is here and understand the principle of it. Understand the power of it in your life. Now I have a couple of quotes to read you. Dwight D. Eisenhower, right, the leader of our military in World War II. Everybody's military that fighting who we were fighting. Plans are nothing. planning is everything. In other words, your work in planning it is where it has power. Then, of course, your constant reading and passion. Reduce your plan to writing. The moment you complete this, you'll have given definitely given concrete form to the intangible desire. That's kind of smart speak for this, right? You now have clarity. It's written in front of you. It is concrete. It's real. And you have an intangible, all this desire, these dreams you want to make happen, but now it has a concrete form in writing, and you're reading to yourself what you have to do, and you're reading it with passion, and now you go into work zeroed in, not just reacting to whatever's going to happen to you that day. You're making your life happen. You're making your business happen. You're making your family happen. You're making your financial situation happen. You're just not going around hoping and wishing and daydreaming. Another great quote, a good system shortens the road to the goal. And that's what we wrote into that plan, is the system, the stuff you have to be following up. And then a Chinese proverb, when planning for a year, plant corn. When planning for a decade, plant trees. When planning for life, train and educate people. That's why I included in the early slides, not only how do you inspire yourself to do it, get yourself to do it, how do you inspire others to do it? When planning for life, train and educate people. So, there you go. The next one, because I'm finished up here as I've gone long, the power of our business model. We're going to, great picture, right? I'm going to make it very clear to you on what is the power of our business model. So your understanding of it, your passion about it can increase. Your appreciation of it can increase. And your ability to articulate it to others will increase. Right? Because you need to understand how good and how cool our stuff is. So that'll be January 11th, 9 a.m. Thank you for sticking with me. Okay, we have already sent the corrected webinar to Rick in the home office, and it will upload correctly with those handful of that one slide included. So there you go. All right, and by the way, I included my top 10 list on that sheet also. So you had a sample of that, of what I wrote. So go get them. Now, we are at this point of the month at 24 million points, net points. We're looking to crack 50. Everybody finish strong. Give it all you got. But take this time also to make sure your goals are clear, your plans are established, and you have clarity, and all this stuff is in writing, and that you are ready to read. All right, guys. Let's go kick butt the end of the year, finish it, and let's roar into 2017 with a plan. I'm excited about what I'm seeing in the company and the maturity of the leadership. I'm excited that we had over 1,100 locations on this webinar. I'm thankful for all of you. Thanks for being in business with us. Love you guys. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Let's go make our dreams come true.